One of the most feared seasons Christian believers have to go through is the waiting season or the pruning season. This period of time in which there is so much uncertainty, there's no clarity, there are very important decisions to be made. There are all sorts of circumstances that seem to kick us down, and it almost feels like God is not there anymore, like He's not listening to our prayers, or that He might be somehow just observing the whole thing without intervention. That reminded me of the story of Joseph in the Bible. It goes all the way through Genesis 37 up to chapter 15, where you can see the whole transition that Joseph has to go through in his waiting season. At first, we can see him talking about his dream. There is this revelation that he got in his dreams that he shared with his family, with his brothers and his father. That's specifically in Genesis chapter 37. He talks about how he saw his brother's sheaves bowing to his, and then also he talks about how the moon and the sun and 11 stars would bow to him as well. Of course, that was not taken very nicely by his family. He might have come out as pretentious, but he was somehow certain about a promise he was getting through his dream. But something that is not generally spoken about very much is how Joseph had to go through all sorts of different circumstances that shaped him and formed him, molded him into what he was supposed to be eventually, what he was meant to become from the very beginning. We can see a couple of years, or many years actually, in the future, how he became the second most important man in Egypt. He became the governor. We can see that in chapter 15. And eventually what we see is a situation in which his brothers ended up bowing to him. He got to meet his brothers after so long. And in like the midst of all this process, Joseph went through treason. He was lied to. He was betrayed. He was taken advantage on. And all of this was meant to be. As bad as it may sound, he was meant to go through all of this, and that was his waiting season. He was meant to be shaped into what God wanted him to be for this one very specific time in which he would be the governor of the land of Egypt. So I think this is the message the Lord is giving us today, that we are meant to be in the waiting season. It feels like nothing's going on, that somehow maybe we messed up in some part of the process, or maybe that we stopped hearing from God and then we just derailed or strayed away from Him. But God is very intentional about the waiting season. There is a reason for it. There are things that cannot go with us in whatever calling He's given us and whatever promise that He has given us. We have to be transformed. We have to let go of things, especially the past. We have to be shaped, molded much more accordingly to what God has intended for us, what His plan is, what His vision is for us. So it is necessary, although painful. And we gotta thank God for the process. We gotta thank God for the waiting, because it is for sure that something good is going to come out of it, and we're not going to be able to see it until all of this is finally over. So the waiting is going to be worth it in the very end.